If you would describe your experience in the dating scene in the last 4 years, would you say it has been good or bad?
For me personally, what I have experienced, it's been very, very good.
Wow. Ibrahim, did you expect
That's
that?
that's interesting. That's why do you think that is so? If you could share it.
First things first, I date around in more countries, several countries and several cultures. And that taught me a lot. I learned a lot from that experiences. I think a lot of my experiences come also just the age, and like every experience teaches you something to a certain point. But I personally always try to look at things and try to see like lessons I can take to my life. And every dating experience has taught me so much. And I've met so many amazing people down the line. I think it's been very good.
That's very positive. I
Yeah.
don't like that. I
Yeah.
hate positivity. No. Let's talk about the ones that wasn't good first, without mentioning names. Yeah.
Yeah.
What was the one way they treated you and that made you decide that this is not someone that I would like to associate with anymore?
I think this person was very insecure, very controlling, in the points that I didn't realize at the time. It's a lot that came afterwards. And I let myself be controlled in those situations many times or subconsciously be influenced. And I think this person judged me a lot and made me feel I'm less worthy than what I am, to the point where I actually believed.
That's
Okay. I mean, I really want to jump in on that without wanting or being too personal. When you said made you feel a certain way, or at least acted in a way that made you feel quite negative about his insecurity and all. And I've seen a couple of times where when men try to set standard with their woman, or at least someone that they are with, it's often perceived as a man being insecure. I'll give you an example. If I tell my girl that I don't want you to go out to the club or something like that, like, because I feel like you are setting yourself in a situation where a lot of men would approach you, and that's not something I want my girl to be around. I personally have experienced like in situations where the person will be like, "Oh, you are insecure," and this. I mean, if you perceive it as that, yeah, maybe it is what it is. So, but for me, I have a different opinion. Like, I just don't want my girl to be around. If you could share some light, some of the things that you feel like this person did or did not do, or that made you feel like that.
I don't want to go too much into the detail. However, I think I can give you a better idea of what it was. Judging me or being insecure about something that has happened in my past that had absolutely nothing to do with the present, with who I am, generally wouldn't change who I am as a person. It has no influence on me, but this person couldn't deal with that and therefore has decided to kind of end things just to come back and basically back. I love this person so much, and the fact that he ended it for something that I couldn't even change anymore, was completely out of my hand and was something from the past, really like shattered my own self-worth in those times.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
I think you told me about this.
Yeah.
Sarah. So it's one of those things. I think Sarah mentioned at the beginning that one of the ways you have chosen to see the dating scene, your experience so far, is as a learning opportunity.
Yeah.
And if you want, you can also tell our listeners your age, so that it probably put things into perspective.
I'm 23 years old, just turned recently.
Yeah. So when you think about it, for a 23-year-old girl, I think you've been in the dating scene for how long? 5 years? Yeah,
Let's say
something
4
like
to
this.
5.
4 to 5 years. It's still very early days, and of course, people might make mistakes. You said, "Oh, these are some certain things that I've done in the past," but this person did not allow you be the new you, because they just judged you based on
Yeah.
what you've done in the past. From a masculine perspective, I can tell you, Sarah, maybe I've already told you this, that can be difficult. Even though it's the past, it's very common nowadays that the past is not necessarily something you just forget, right? So it's very difficult when you're dealing with opposite gender, that people look at the past and say, especially for men, like men would not look at the past and say, it does not have an impact on the future. I think this is a big disconnect between how men and women see the past of their spouses. Because if I ask you now that do you care about the past of your partner, what would you tell me?
It depends on what kind of past we're talking about. Depends, are we talking about he's been in jail for 5 years? Or I don't know. It really much depends on the circumstances.
But
However,
let's say sexually, a drunk, some of his
The
escapades
shenanigans.
in the clubs. Does this make a difference for the future that you see with them?
it's something I try not to even discuss anymore.
Okay.
So ever since this experience, this I've learned that maybe this is a topic that shouldn't be discussed into depths. I used to be super open book, and this is where this whole situation happened. Was I was very open about my past experiences, and I decided that maybe that's not something that really matters anymore. And to be honest, ever since then, everybody who I have been involved with, I have never asked that question, and it's been never a topic I ever discussed with another partner.
What do you think about that, Ibrahim?
She's not wrong. I mean, to also buttress on the points you were trying to make, it's like for men, we are much more inclined to wanting to know about a female's past. Why for a lot of females, right? You can argue that they care so much about a man's future. What kind of future lies ahead for me if I'm involving myself with this guy? And also, that's kind of the difference that we have in that regard. And talking about like sharing something that happened in the past, for me, I would say 100% when you share some things, there has to be a time for it, depending on what it is. Also, sometimes with the whole dating scene right now, I feel like people have so little patience with each other, at least from my experience, also that it's like we are almost scanning each other for red flags. So as soon as I see someone that is telling me this, especially on the dating apps, it's quite like we have almost zero tolerance for each other, right? I was talking to this, I mean, we met online, right? Like on, so everything was going on really fine. We were like vibing. I'm like, oh, this is pretty exciting, right? And I was just following the vibe. Like, I mean, we've been talking for like a whole like 2 days, like back and forth, not like on calls or whatever, just on the app, right? Then I just followed up like, yo, it seems like we are really hitting it off and everything. Like, let's just maybe FaceTime on. And she's like, yeah, that's not a bad idea, but can we just keep it on the app for now? I lost it. I'm like, so I mean, for me,
No,
that
but I
signal
think
was
that's probably reasonable as well. I'm curious to see what Sarah thinks about that. Because it's a clear, all right, I'm not sure about you. However, sometimes with
Yeah.
men, it's like I have made my intention clear. You're on a dating app looking for someone. I don't think it takes you that long to at least want to get to know more. If
Yeah.
that wasn't why I did. Let me tell you before she jumps in why I made the decision was because I felt like this is someone that is dealing with me with our rules first before our feelings. This is someone who is transferring a similar experience. If I would ask her, she's probably going to tell me, oh, I gave someone my number too early because we're vibing and he started stalking me or whatever. But I believe in vibes, right? I feel like we're on the same sort of frequency. And she messed that up the moment she placed a rule before how she was feeling because I could feel we were on the same page. But then she started being careful with me. And I'm like, if she's going to continue this pattern, it's better I just stop it like this. So, yeah.
I agree and disagree with that mindset. The situation that you just now described, I personally can't really put myself into it because, as I mentioned, I'm trying to stay as far as possible from meeting people online in any shape or form. Everyone I have been involved with, I've met some sort of organically in person. So there has never been that situation of like having a problem with seeing each other or FaceTiming or however, I do think if I was in your position where the situation would be flipped and a guy wouldn't be really inclined into FaceTiming or would have said something similar, it would be a turn off for me in the same way it was for you. And it would send exactly the same signal of like, well then what are your actually intentions on being on this app if you're not really interested in getting to know me better or seeing me again, like talking on video, there's so much more emotion, so much more that you can translate into what you're saying, so it's much easier to get to know each other than just per strict text. There are so many mishaps and misunderstandings that can happen there. However, the whole mindset of looking out for red flags, I think that's problematic.
That's what everyone is doing right
Because
now. Like, at least on the apps.
maybe not even apps, maybe in general, you find what you're looking for. And from my experience or from what I've learned, I know that men are much more aware of the mishaps that women do psychologically in a way that women are not aware of. Or basically, men remember those things much more than women do. That women are much more willing to, even if something happens that are like, I'm not really sure, or he said something or done something, or I'm not really sure about this fact, we are not going to cut things loose immediately in a moment. So I think from a female perspective, we would give it a more, like, we would try more, or like see where things go, and we wouldn't be directly like, okay, nah. Unless it's not a full on deal breaker or some kind of red flag, but it's like the small something that you're not too sure of, like the way he pronounced yogurt. It's, we were gonna look over that and continue.
I cannot disagree, and I would say why I disagree.
Especially
She's not wrong.
the way you pronounce.
No, she's not wrong.
The way he pronounces yogurt, women.
I feel
they
like
will fucking dumb the guy for whatever. Oh, I like him so much. Oh, but shit, he goes to the toilet in the middle of a meeting or something. What does that? Nah.